Hello everyone and welcome to something new. This is going to be the start of my review of the Battlebots 2021 season. Now, we're a little bit behind, so you might see some episodes coming out in short order, but we're going to be starting off with episode 1. We're going to go over the episode, look at each match, we're going to rate each match out of 5 stars, and by the end of the review, we're going to be picking out the bot of the episode, the MVP, the one that I feel stood out above all else. I don't want to really do an opposite version of that where I name and shame a robot. I don't really want to do that. So we're going to be focusing on whether the matches are good or bad and which robot stood out particularly well. Well, let's not waste any more time. Let's get straight into this episode. First things first, the intro was amazing. Honestly, I don't normally take too much note of the introduction to a new series of any robot show, but this was absolutely phenomenal. The shots that they used were amazing, really building up that hype. The clips that they used were really good, didn't give too much away, but were great at building up that hype. There was some amazing shots which combined with some top-notch editing really sets it apart. Battlebots has done, I think, similar intros to this in the past, but this to me may be the best robot combat intro to date. It sets the tone perfectly. We're then introduced to Chris and Kenny, who as always have a great deal of chemistry. Honestly, a great pairing. They are amazing when it comes to Battlebots. I really wouldn't want anyone else in their position. They introduced the brand new addition to the Battlebots, the Upper Deck. See, Battlebots decided that they wanted to get rid of out of the arenas as far as I'm aware, and so by doing this, they've, I guess, given an option for flippers, but it's very strange. We're gonna have to see how this plays out as the series goes on. And now onto the first fight, but right before it, the arena begins to spark and there's sirens going off. It was a great additional hype builder. To me, it seemed a bit more Robot Wars style with the sirens and everything, but I'm certainly not going to complain. I think it was a great way to get things started. Speaking of, SawBlaze versus Minotaur. What an opener. That is exceptional. Sadly, there's no more Marco on the Riobots team, but this is still a case where I had no idea going in who could end up winning this one. Both are extremely high tier robots, and as Jameson Go said, this is a fight that could have been decided right in the first 10 seconds. And in the beginning, Minotaur seemed to be doing pretty well, but I could see that the drums seemed to not be working as well as it should have been. That, coupled with the usual amazing driving from the SawBlaze team, meant that SawBlaze quickly took control, and that weapon, wow! It cut right through into Minotaur and caused a fire. And at that point, Minotaur, with its drum disabled, it on fire, this fight was as good as over. But Minotaur would still not go down. SawBlaze would continuously pursue it, continuously push it around, but the endurance on Minotaur is astounding. There's a reason that I rate this bot so highly. It takes so much to take it out, and as great as SawBlaze did, it just couldn't do the job. SawBlaze's weapon itself eventually gave up, but the thing with SawBlaze is that while it can do exceptionally well with the weapon, it still had plenty of control on its side without it, shoving Minotaur all around the battle box. For me, this is easily a 4-star fight. This fight was great in the beginning. Even when the weapons got taken out, the robots were still relentlessly going, refusing to give up. And while I feel it did drag a little towards the end due to the lack of weaponry, I still think that this was an exceptional opener. Quick edit to add, Minotaur's drum did in fact come back at one point, so it's definitely still good. I just don't know if it was at the full maximum capability that it normally would have been at. I think had it been, this fight could have been a lot more even. Very little time is wasted as they head into the second fight. In fact, once they've finished talking about the format, the robots are already in the box. in this second fight, it's Uppercut versus Gigabyte. Two robots that I think are exceptional. You have Uppercut, who has been absolutely demolishing the competition. Absolutely incredibly powerful. And on the other hand, you've got Gigabyte. In my opinion, the best full body spinner in Battlebots, or at least the best shell spinner in Battlebots. In fact, possibly the best shell spinner in the entire modern combat scene. But I'll admit, heading into this one, I kind of knew where things were gonna go. As good as Gigabyte is, Uppercut has been devastating. Now the fight began, and honestly, there was a surprising exchanging of blows at the start. Gigabyte got a few blows in, as well as taking a few shots from Uppercut. However, Uppercut's power soon overwhelmed Gigabyte, on top of the fact that Gigabyte was cornered and didn't have the space and freedom to be able to get up to speed. They were soon taken out by Uppercut. I gotta give this one 3.5 stars. Honestly, this was short and sweet. It was a good fight, both robots gave it a go, but Uppercut showing that it is still one to watch. On another note, gotta say, I always love a mini-bot, and Gigabyte having 3, mwah. To me, Gigabyte wins my heart in this fight, even if it doesn't get the W this time. After that fight, we moved on to a Switchback hype video looking at the brand new robot. And man, I gotta say that Switchback really is pretty decent in my opinion. The drum is hefty, the fact that the arm can articulate at all, even if it's not to the level of SawBlaze, is pretty remarkable, and apparently it spins extremely quickly as well. Like, for a brand new robot, this is not bad. Now, unfortunately, its first opponent in the next fight was gonna be Grunt, and I kind of knew going in that Grunt was going to be the kryptonite for Switchback here. An incredibly durable tank of a robot. Switchback's drums kind of a little bit high, so it's going to have a hard time really getting a good bite in. This just seemed like a bad matchup for the new robot. And honestly, I was kind of right. Grunt was able to get around quite easily. Switchback did get some nice shots in, but they really didn't phase Grunt at all. Grunt pushed Switchback about, and then when Switchback got turned over, that was all she wrote. Honestly, I'm gonna give this one 2 stars. While it did have some moments here and there, this fight to me didn't have any of those massive moments that would make me want to rewatch this match. And in my opinion here, this one ended a little too soon. I feel like more could have been done. Still a good fight, but I feel like it could have been more. I gotta say, one disappointment that I did have for Switchback is that I'm surprised that the arm doesn't have enough torque to self-right. I get that it's not powerful enough to be on the likes of SawBlaze, but that does seem like a major oversight. I hope they can get that fixed either for the next fight or for the next time they enter Battlebots. Next up, we had Tombstone versus Captain Shredderator. I kind of expected this one to go really obviously in Tombstone's favour. As while Shredderator has been getting better, Tombstone is such a powerful force. We saw what happened when it fought Gigabyte. Yeah, sure, there was that one weak part on Gigabyte, but I still feel like that fight would have gone Tombstone's way either way, and I felt the same way in this one. Shredderator also seemed to be self-aware about this, saying about how, yeah, it would be pretty obvious if Tombstone were to win, but if they were to win, that would be a big deal, and it absolutely would be. One thing that Shredderator has that has been a massive improvement, and I'm glad that they've finally done this, they've added a second weapon motor for redundancy. Sometimes you'll get this with spinners. It's a good idea a lot of the time, as if the first motor burns out, the second motor can keep things going, even if not as quick anymore. Now this fight started off pretty much how I'd expected, Tombstone landing some major hits on Shredderator, but then disaster struck as part of Tombstone's bar broke off. I believe it might have hit Tombstone, but either way, the force of the hit caused Tombstone to start malfunctioning and then catch on fire. Now Shredderator, due to the fact that it was just able to survive and likely got a few good hits in itself, ended up coming away with the victory. This was another short and sweet match. I'm going to give it about 3 stars. I feel like it could have been a little bit more, but honestly, not much to complain about. The fight was a shocker. I did not expect Tombstone to lose, especially not that quickly. These things can happen though in the Battlebots. You can never expect anything. Sometimes the craziest things can happen. And well, Tombstone is going to have to lick its wounds because it lost against an unlikely opponent. I've got to say, Shredder Raider's increased endurance is really looking up for it if it can survive a fight with Tombstone. Now this fight could go down as the fight of the night in my opinion. Blacksmith versus Freeshipping. And a quick note, the bit in the beginning of the episode where Al's eyes are just washed out with fire, that is the weirdest and funniest edit I've ever seen. I don't understand it. If I had a nitpick for Battlebots that I would love them to try and fix in the next season, they go on about how Gary Jin is a feared and respected driver, but I feel for the casual viewers that might not be obvious why. Freeshipping is a fun robot, but it's hardly on the levels of the likes of Bite Force or Endgame or Tombstone, so casual viewers might not understand why. I think a bit of acknowledgement to the history of Freeshipping, the likes of Original Sin and Raging Scotsman maybe, would give a better insight to this team, and I feel would really let the viewers know why Gary Jin is so powerful. I don't know, I just feel like this isn't explained enough. Obviously for us, we already know, but to a casual viewer, they might not. Not everyone is familiar with robo games, especially as it's been gone for several years now. Anyway, I've got to say, right away, 4 stars for this fight. This was absolutely phenomenal. Both robots were driven amazingly. Both got so aggressive. We got some amazing flips and control from Freeshipping. Just absolutely doing an amazing job until that lifter gave out. And we got some nice, powerful hits from Blacksmith, showing some incredible aggression right there. And up until the end, where Blacksmith did catch on fire internally, it did surprisingly well. Honestly, this was a fight that could have gone either way in my opinion when the judges were brought into this. But I'm not going to complain over Blacksmith gaining the victory, because there definitely is a reason why. That damage probably tipped the scales in their favour. Now that Blacksmith has the power figured out in that spinner, again another shame that the hammer is gone, but combined with that durability and that ground clearance, I think Blacksmith might make it into the top 16. I know, episode 1 review and I'm already making big bold predictions like that, but I really think it could be a possibility. I see them being quite formidable. Is it bad that when I saw the fights, it wasn't Endgame versus Hydra that I was so excited to see, but the real fight that had my eye was Pain Train versus Deep Six. Pain Train, a robot that I felt was nicely improved over last time, but the real robot that had my eye was Deep Six. Deep Six, a robot that destroyed the arena last season and was back and better than ever. And I'm not going to waste any time. For me, this was a great short but sweet match. I'm going to be honest, probably a bit biased, 4 stars. We saw with Freeshipping and Blacksmith what a great long 3-minute match should be, and I feel with this, we got to see what a great short match should be. But Deep Six is so monumentally powerful, tearing apart Pain Train with every single hit, sending it flying. Really, I think it was kind of obvious who was going to come out on top in this one. Pain Train would only have a very small window of opportunity if it went for the wheels, perhaps, but weapon on weapon, it was kind of obvious who was going to come out on top here. Deep Six, while maybe not as chaotically powerful as before, that consistency could make them a genuine threat. I don't think they're going to get far into the tournament, but I feel they have the potential to really ruin some people's championship dreams. Honestly, for me, this fight was so much fun. Now before we get into the main event, we have to look at the YouTube bonus fight. Deadlift versus Jackpot, a rematch, as last time Deadlift got the upper hand as Jackpot's Shremek really was not good enough. To me, I thought Deadlift had this one again, as I felt like their durability was going to be immensely helpful and they proved that they were perfectly capable of flipping Jackpot over. But when I saw that Jackpot had a set of wedgelets, I knew this was not going to be easy. However, I gotta say those wedgelets maybe weren't as good as I thought they were going to be. Now honestly, this is another 3-star fight as both robots kept on going for the entire 3 minutes. We saw some great shows from both robots. Nothing spectacular. There wasn't anything on the level of, say, Blacksmith and Freeshipping, so I can't give it more than 3 stars. But I still think that these two did exceptionally well, and the fact that it did last a full 3 minutes is pretty good in my opinion. The match went to Jackpot as towards the end they had just racked up enough damage on Deadlift. Deadlift really was beginning to look a little sorry and it even seemed to stop at the end. But to me, both robots absolutely did phenomenally. I gotta say, this was a pretty good fight, and the fact that it was a bonus fight of all things really shows that Battlebots has been stepping up their game this season. Now let's head into our main event. Before the match begins, we get another brilliant hype video showcasing 2 higher tier Battlebots here, Hydra and Endgame, our main eventers. Now I gotta say, Endgame, incredibly impressive. Absolutely one of the biggest, baddest vertical spinners ever. If Biteforce ever comes back, I'd love to see those two go at it in the box. I think that could be a stellar main event in the future. On the flip side, Jake Hewitt of Hydra is really embodying being the new Battlebots villain. I gotta say, I loved the final bit where they just had Ray Billings literally pass the torch over by handing like this plaque declaring Jake Hewitt as the new Battlebots villain. That to me put it over the top and made it clear. Gotta say, I love stuff like this. At the end of the day, this is all a bit of fun, even if there is a competitive spirit behind it. Honestly, when I saw that, I knew even more that I just desperately wanted to see this. Now heading in, I felt that this was Endgame's fight. I mean, Hydra is great. I have a soft spot in my heart for Hydra. I love a good flipper. But I also knew that going in, Hydra has a bad history when it comes to taking damage. Now honestly, was I wrong? Let's be honest here, while this fight did have some nice moments, it ended way quicker than you might have expected, given the caliber of robots that were involved. We got a great flip from Hydra, that amazing power that we normally expect, but the moment Hydra's flipper got stuck in the air, this fight was over. And then Endgame, with one huge hit, Hydra was dead in the water. An absolute shame, really disappointing as well, given that this fight could have been so much more. But I gotta say, these robots still show that they've got a lot of power. I think Hydra is definitely gonna make up for it in its future fights, and Endgame proving why they're the Battlebots champions. This fight's a 3-star match for me. It was incredibly short, but both robots didn't really get to show themselves as much as I maybe would have liked, but what we did see is very promising. All in all, I'd say this was a pretty darn good episode of Battlebots. Like, the fights that I complain about the most were just generally because they weren't as good as I wanted them to be, but no fights do I really think were bad. Honestly, if the worst we're getting is could have been even better, that's incredible. Now for the bot of the night, the robot that I feel really stood out, and I've gotta give it to SawBlaze. Honestly, the power of that weapon combined with the ability to just shove Minotaur around so amazingly well, its control that is practically unmatched. an amazing level of power. SawBlaze is looking better than ever before. Man, if this is the opening episode, I gotta say, my expectations for this season are now through the roof. But yeah, that was my review of episode 1 of Battlebots. I hope you enjoyed. If you did, please remember to leave a like on this video, subscribe if you haven't already, and hit that notification bell to be notified of future videos. I, of course, will be reviewing the other episodes of Battlebots. And, well, if you check the end card, you'll see the bonus fight from Battlebots as they upload them to their YouTube channel. Check it out. The jackpot deadlift match was really quite fun to watch. So with that being said, I'll see you all next time. Bye, guys!